Guys, welcome back. It is Racer X, and today I wanted to film just a little video about essentially 5 things that you should never do to your Hellcat. Now, yes, I've had my Hellcat now for 3.5 years, and I have really enjoyed the ownership of this car. As we know, the car makes well over 1,000 horsepower. It is unbelievably fast. I've had a ton of fun in this car. I race it all the time, but there are some things that you should not do in your Hellcat or to your Hellcat that I want to kind of just sort of bring up. So hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Also, guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe down there on the bottom. Here we go. We got the 1,000 horsepower Hellcat. God. Okay, guys, so number 1 on my list, the things you should not do on a Hellcat. As we all know, when we buy these Hellcats, unless you get a wide body and you get, of course, the wider wheels, they come with 275 tires, and a lot of them come with the all-season tires, which is what this one came with. And I will tell you, even with stock power, guys, if you're going to run around with those little 275 tires on the car, do not expect to be able to use the power that the car has. That thing will readily spin those tires at 70, 80 miles an hour, and it's just borderline dangerous. I do not know why Dodge literally puts 275 with tires, especially hard ones, on the back of a car that makes this sort of power, but they do. And guys, you know what? It literally can be dangerous if you're just rolling down the highway, you're trying to do some pulls with the thing, you're on a back road, it will get away from you in a hurry. So my suggestion is get those 275s off the back of that car as soon as you can and stick you something, it may be a street tire, but at least give it a sticky street tire, or go with a drag radial. What I do with my car here is I put 305 Nitto NT555Rs on the back, just because if I get caught out in the rain or something like that, that tire still seems to do okay. You can go with a Mickey Thompson Street SS, which is a fantastic dry tire. Now keep in mind, you won't get the mileage you will out of a normal street tire with a drag radial, guys, but you will be much safer on the road, and you will be able to use the power much more effectively in this car. It'll give you a lot more confidence. And guys, I'll even show you here. The 275s on these things are an absolute joke. So as you can see on mine, we do have the 305s. I'll kind of bend down here. There they are. And sorry, the car's a little bit dirty here, guys, but it is a must if you own a Hellcat. Get some new tires for it. That should be mod number 1, and you'll enjoy the car a lot more. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is going to the track. So one of the worst things I think that you can do is take one of these monsters and stick it out there on a track with the stock drive shaft. So the drive shaft that comes in the car, if you've ever seen a comparison of what the stock drive shaft looks like compared to, say, like a DSS drive shaft or an aftermarket drive shaft like I have in this car, it is absolutely night and day. And I have seen many Hellcat owners, including owners of brand new stock Hellcats, absolutely pretzel up their drive shaft because they go put a sticky tire on the back and they head out to the track. So if you're just running around on the street, the stock drive shaft should be absolutely fine. I don't think you can get enough bite on the street in order to hurt that. At least I haven't seen it. Things change a lot at the track, guys. It is very sticky, completely different surface, a lot more stress on your drivetrain. And typically in a Hellcat, the very first thing to give up is going to be your drive shaft. And so if you plan on doing any racing, please make sure you go out, you get you an aftermarket drive shaft. They make carbon fiber versions, they make aluminum versions. I have the big 4-inch aluminum version from DSS in this car, and it has not failed me. It is a fantastic product. I really like it. And it gives me that peace of mind that when I go to launch this beast, this is a 4,600 pound car, and the car makes huge horsepower. And when it comes off, there are stresses like you wouldn't believe, and I know that drive shaft is going to hold up. And of course, at some point, I actually had to upgrade my axles too because I broke one because of the power the car makes. But guys, at minimum, if you are even in a stock car, as I mentioned, please get you a drive shaft if you plan on doing any sort of racing at the track. And you know what? It can't even hurt for being on the street. But that is another thing. We talked about tires before that were just from Dodge. They just didn't do a great job with it. The drive shaft is really the next one. Obviously on the Demon, they beefed it up because they knew that car was going to be getting drag raced. But they make enough power to absolutely pretzel a drive shaft, guys, when you head out and you just leave everything in stock form. So change out your drive shaft. Do not drive around on a stock drive shaft at the track because it could be a really bad day. All right, guys, I want to talk a little bit about my third item. So if you're a guy that's modified your car, you've done pulleys or whatever it may be, anything really more than just your simple bolt-ons, you need to make sure you support those modifications with the right kind of fuel and the fuel system. And what I mean by that is a lot of guys will upgrade their pulleys, but they don't do anything with the fuel system. A lot of times guys will go as much as putting like a booster pump on their car, but for some applications that simply is not that's not enough fuel. On my particular setup, I'm running a 275 upper, 10% lower, and the car makes about 900 wheel. But what that means is I have to support that extra horsepower with extra fuel. So I did twin 450 drop-in fuel pumps, and I went with E85. I had to go bigger injectors. I had to go to 1300 cc injectors, and that seems to be a pretty good little combination. Now, if I went up more in boost, chances are, yes, I would need more injector, and I would probably need even more fuel pump, but I'm happy with where the car sits right now in terms of performance, guys. But please don't be that guy that goes out there that upgrades his motor and does not upgrade his fuel system, because that is a fantastic way to starve your motor of horsepower. Keep in mind, guys, if you only stick with 93 octane, a lot of times you can only run so much boost, and then of course your tuner has to take timing out because your fuel just won't support that kind of horsepower. So something to think about there, guys. But definitely make sure at minimum do a boost to pump to support your application, or go with a full system. You can go with a full system by a company called Fore, F-O-R-E, or you can just do like twin 450s like I did and keep the stock lines. For my application, it seems to work really, really well. But just don't be caught out there with not enough fuel, guys, because you could potentially really hurt your car, hurt your motor, and of course that could be a really, really expensive day, and it'll also hurt you from a consistency perspective. So hopefully you're supporting your application with the right sort of fuel. The next thing I want to talk about is for you modified guys out there, if you have a modified Hellcat and you've obviously got a tune, most likely you do, or hopefully you do, on your Hellcat, keep in mind your car is probably tuned for the altitude at which you live or at which you race. That only makes sense to do that. Now, if you happen to go someplace where they're going to have either much higher DA or much lower DA, you stand a chance of hurting your motor if you don't adjust your tune accordingly. And actually, when I was in Houston, when I broke my axle in this car, I actually saw Kevin Van Voris had a kind of a catastrophic event with his motor where his car actually caught on fire and everything. Something happened. Keep in mind, he lives in Amarillo, and they're used to DA that's in like the 5,000, 6,000 foot range. And we were in Houston in a very, very cold, dry day in negative like 15, 1,700 DA. So we're talking like an 8,500 foot swing in density altitude, guys. And of course, what ensued was terrible because he blew up his motor. The car was running too lean for those conditions, and it ended up being just a terrible, terrible thing. So guys, you have to account for that. So there's no tune that's kind of perfect for every single condition. So the truth is, if you need to, if you're going to go someplace else and race, if you're somebody that travels to race, please make sure that you adjust your tune to whatever the density altitude is going to be, because those big swings could really hurt your motor and can actually be dangerous. So, you just have to kind of be careful with that, guys. It's kind of a live and learn type thing. But just keep in mind that your tune, unless it's stock, typically won't necessarily work in every condition, and you just need to be aware of that going in. One of life's little pleasures is owning a sedan that runs mid-nines that makes over 1,000 horsepower, guys. It never ever gets old, man. It's just so much fun. I just couldn't help it. And guys, for my fifth and final item that you should never do in a Hellcat, at least in my opinion, is when you are racing the car, whether it be roll racing or whether it be at the track, when you flip your paddle here, obviously you're automatic transmission, guys, so that's what I'm talking about. If you're in a manual, it doesn't really matter so much. But if you're in an automatic transmission car, guys, make sure that when you actually go to run, that you put the thing back over in drive and let the car do what it is designed and supposed to do. The reason I say that is because when you flip it over into manual, it holds that gear. Now, if you're launching, as you can hear, the car is really revving out. That's only 3,000 RPM. It is not going to shift for me until it hits the rev limiter, which I'm not going to do. So there, that's better. I'm actually going to switch it back over into automatic and let the car shift the way that it wants to shift. It's tuned for that. But at the end of the day, guys, it can actually be really bad for your motor if you flip it over into manual and forget to make a shift. And when you're accelerating really hard, like in a drag racing setting, especially in first and second gear, the chance of you being able to really make that shift perfect are pretty slim, and the car is going to do a much better job of it than you are. So my suggestion, obviously, when you do your burnout, leave it in second gear so it won't over rev the tires, and you won't get a crazy, John Force type plume coming out behind you. But then flip it back over into drive before you leave, so that car can shift for you, so you don't miss any shifts, and you don't have that car slamming off the rev limiter. Yes, the rev limiter is there for a reason, guys, but if you're constantly slamming off the rev limiter, it can be catastrophic for your motor, and you're most definitely going to lose your race. So in neither situation is really ideal. Certainly I'd rather lose a race than lose my car, but at the end of the day, yeah, you really just need to make sure that you're allowing the car to do what it's supposed to do. So guys, before you do either a roll race or a drag race, please just make sure you flip that sucker over into automatic and let the car do what it's going to do, because it will automatically shift that thing for you and make sure that you're hitting the best spot for your shifts. So, well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video. Obviously, I felt it was important to talk really about the 5 things that you should never do to your Hellcat, at least in my assessment. At the end of the day, the Hellcat is still an absolutely fantastic platform. Absolutely love it. Just a couple of little items out there that I felt like people should be aware of. So whether you guys agree or disagree, feel free to drop those comments down there on the bottom. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and the support on the channel. Until next time, Racer X.